Estimated that at least 54 people die per day due to air pollution caused by the mix of chemicals, dust, cars, and hundreds of other pollutants in the atmosphere. Now, if you live in Joburg, Pretoria, Durban, Bloemfontein, and Cape Town, the air that you breathe is said to be dangerous and could slowly be killing you. Climatology and pollution research shows that this air affects everyone from unborn babies to healthy adults and pensioners. Dr. Roloff Berger from the Climatology and Pollution Research Group at the Northwest University is joining us now to help us unpack what this means. Dr. Berger, welcome back to Morning News Today. We just had a chat with you the other day on World Environment Day. Now we are back here just to focus on this thing of air pollution. I don't know if you saw the latest media reports that are estimating that 54 people die every day, and that things are really, really bad. It's not just, as you told us before, it's not just the smoke in the air that could be killing us.
Yes, things have not improved since we last spoke. In fact, on mornings like today, it's much worse. And there's two things that play into that. It's when it's so cold, more people use solid fuels to burn, to heat up their homes. And then also on cold days, the atmosphere is so stable that we have no mixing. So all the pollution that's being emitted just stays there. So today is a particularly bad day.
Yeah, you told us last time that the research group, as part of your research, you've gone into all kinds of areas of the country, and particularly in townships where people are burning all kinds of fuels in order to warm themselves up, that leaves certain particles or something in the air other than smoke itself.
Yes. I mean, smoke is part of it, but smoke is typically the things that you see. The pollution that has the health impact is invisible, right? So it is particles like smoke, but much smaller. So you could be in an environment where these particles are being emitted, but they are too small to see. And
what kind of particles are these? I mean, can you just give us, our viewers, an idea? What are we talking about?
It could be anything from dust particles or maybe pollen, but when we burn smoke, when we burn wood or coal, there's some gases that forms, and then from that gases we also get secondary particles that form. So it can be a mixture of chemicals. And although there is an indication that the chemistry is important, the size is the primary thing. If it's very small, it can penetrate deep into your lungs. So the smaller it is, the deeper it can go, and the bigger the health impact.
And then that kind of health impact could lead to things like asthma, for example?
Many things. It has impact on all aspects of health. It restricts your respiratory system, and that leads to all the typical respiratory problems and aggravates existing respiratory problems. But it can also then cause a strain on your heart, so there's a range of cardiovascular problems, and then there's also some suggestion of cancer. So it has an impact on the whole suite of health problems.
But we do have a law in place that should govern and regulate air quality control, don't we?
In fact, we have beautiful legislation. It's starting from our Constitution, where the problem is outlined and our rights are outlined, and also this delicate balance of the right for clean air, but also the need for development. And then taking it straight through to really complex legislation, trying to tackle and trying to put solutions on the table.
But why are we not implementing it or enforcing these laws?
Well, the real problem, as we discussed last time, is there's not one clear solution. There's not one thing that we can address that will have a measurable impact on health. Where there's many things that we can do wrong that can aggravate the problem. For example, if we don't fix the trucks that has to take away the waste from the places where people live, they are forced to burn these waste, and that then adds additional burden. If we don't design cities cleverly, people have to travel further to their place of work. So while there's not one solution, there are many things that contribute to the bad air that
But currently I understand that, okay, the law exists and stuff, but companies can apply for exemption. I mean, I'm thinking about companies like Sasol, like Eskom, where they've been fingered, like let's talk about Eskom in Mpumalanga, for example, and people say, no, but these companies are given a leeway because they can apply for exemptions.
Yes. So it is true, and if you look at emissions only, right, there are a couple of groups that have by far the highest emissions of pollutions, like Eskom. But the problem is that emission is only half the story. That pollution still has to travel and make its way to where people breathe it. And we have to thank the engineers that designed the power stations for putting such stall stacks, because that means that pollution gets diluted many times before people breathe it. And then, although it's not a negligible impact, right, it is not the thing that will make the difference. So, for example, if we take Eskom, to solve that problem will cost hundreds of billions of rands, hundreds of billions. And then it's not a solution that you can buy and then the problem is fixed. It's really complicated technology that has to be custom built for that solution. And then if you paid that hundreds of billions, you still have to maintain it. So now we have to ask ourselves the question, is that money well spent? Because after those hundreds of billions, we won't be able to detect the difference. And the guys living in the poor townships, they won't know the difference. Or can we use the legislation and bring that guys, force them around the table and trying to find solutions for some of the other problems that we can't fix? And we have legislation like that. There's a policy that's called offsets, that allows for situations like that, where we say that it's not the first thing to do is not to put very expensive control technologies on power plants, but rather to say let them help us find solutions for other problems.
Dr. Rolf Beger, thank you very much for your time. It's a complex setup that needs to be resolved. It takes a holistic approach, not just